South Africa, in its position in the world, we are a global player. In Africa, we are the leader in terms of economics and geopolitics. And therefore, we are considered a big brother. No, you cannot be a big brother if you are unable to wield a stick that will make people be afraid. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is he talking about and all that? How many of you will build a beautiful and expensive house and not fence it and protect it? I don't think none of you will do that. Constitutionally, the South African National Defence Force is mandated to protect and defend the country. Now, any home will display its...
South Africa, the diplomatic genius of the century. While the rest of the world is trying to not get on the bad books of the United States, the country that buys a huge chunk of our exports, so it's our third largest trading partner. Our brilliant leaders in their infinite wisdom decide, well, let's go have tea with Iran, praise their US stance, and maybe pick up some tips on how to be sanctioned into oblivion, perhaps. Now, because apparently the ANC has decided foreign policy is less about protecting trade and jobs and more about reenacting the Cold War. Except this time, we're siding with the people Washington really, really hates. Now, ladies and gentlemen, picture this, right? Picture this. Here's what went down. The SANDF Chief General Rudzani Maphwanya flew to Tehran this week. He wasn't just doing a little tourism. Now, he was there touring Iranian military sites, facilities, the Navy, meeting their top brass, and pledging military and political cooperation. Now, that doesn't sound pretty ordinary. That's right. While Trade Minister Park Tao is in a panic, trying to renegotiate with a super deal with the Americans after they slapped us with a 30% tariff on our exports with a potential 10% for, being part of BRICS. Our top soldiers, in their infinite wisdom, is now in Iran saying how much he loves, their peace, and calls Iran a peace-loving nation. Peace-loving. This is the same Iran that just got out of a shooting match with Israel. But hey, why let reality spoil the photo op? There's no need. Now, Iran's generals rolled out the red carpet, They had all sorts of fancy Iranian dishes there. They told us we've got an amazing military, good technical and industrial capabilities, and would love to share them with you. Which is diplomatic code for we've got a bunch of weapons the West won't touch. But, we believe you guys are useful idiots and we don't mind you having some. And in return, they invited South African soldiers to come and study at their Central Military Academy. Can't make this stuff up. That's right, student exchanges. Imagine a SANDF officer going to Iran for training and then returning home with a PhD in how to make the US even angrier. Now, let's link these two together. You'll remember that the US withdrew from the military games last week. Now, here's the punchline, all this is happening in the same week South Africa is supposedly repairing relations with the United States. So much for that. Parks Tau is in negotiations, begging for mercy from Uncle Sam on tariffs while the SANDF is in Tehran, praising the, Tehran leaders and, standing up to a Zionist regime, according to them, and the United States. That's like applying for a job at Coca-Cola while posting TikToks about how much you love Pepsi. You just can't make this up. You really can't. This is the South African, I would say political landscape, but not the international landscape. Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't about military training. This is about ideology. The ANC sees Iran as a fellow anti-colonial ally. The way they speak. Part of their club of countries that hate the West and see the US as a big, bad, behemoth, imperialist threat. Never mind that. The US is one of South Africa's biggest trading partners. We've gone over that. We've hammered on it. As well as that thousands of South African jobs depend on exports to American markets. But hey, this did not come to the army. No, there's just no ideology. No ideology. Economy later. It's the same playbook they use with Russia, China, Cuba, and Venezuela. Surrounding yourself with authoritarian regimes and call it friendships, and then act shocked when Western investors say, we're not going to join this party. We're running for the hills. So much for a democratic South Africa that doesn't work for you and me. Now, Chris Hattingh from the Center for Risk Analysis, right, nailed it. Even if, and I quote, even if South Africa came up with the most business-friendly, trade-focused deal to lower US tariffs, trips like this make the Americans suspicious. They don't separate trade from politics. And honestly, why should they? That's the big question. When your army chief is literally smiling, for the cameras, with people Washington has sanctioned and hates with their hearts, they've sanctioned them for decades, you're not exactly sending please invest in us vibes. You're sending we're with your enemies vibes. Let's just be pretty clear. Now, here's the bigger picture. ANC's foreign policy is just a clown car. It's part of a pattern. Ramaphosa's government votes against Israel at every opportunity. They do. We hold military drills with Russia right after their invasion of Ukraine. You can't make this up. So much for democracy. We flirt with China while complaining about Western neo-colonialism. You can't make this up. And now we're telling Iran, hey, we're with you against the US. This isn't diplomacy. It's geopolitical self-sabotage. It's the ANC turning South Africa into the world's open mic night for bad foreign policy. So, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, this is a warning to South Africans. If you're wondering why your exports to the US are getting hammered, or why foreign investors are giving South Africa a tough time, a wide berth, don't look at the business climate. Look at our foreign policy. Our foreign policy is a circus. Because when your leadership acts like poking the bear, and the bear, not the Russians, but the US, in the eye, and they think it's a clever strategy, don't be surprised when Washington pokes back. And in fact, they won't poke back. They shoot back with tariffs, trade restrictions, and maybe, just maybe, even sanctions. But hey, at least we'll have great friends in Tehran, Maybe we can drive 1950 motor vehicles. Maybe they'll buy our oranges, or our alcohol. Oh, I forgot they don't drink. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this story is a smelly story. I am one to tell a smelly story from the get-go. This is bigger than, just a general meeting. This has got something to do with military cooperation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this has been 10 Minutes with Kuhle. If you like the work we do here, please do consider supporting us by subscribing or signing up for channel membership. It really helps in improving and keeping the lights on. Now, till next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and let's keep Tehran out of our foreign affairs.